All right, so I'm making this build video for some friends. By no means is it supposed to be like YouTube content or am I trying to get any kind of attention from this. But if you happen to come across the video and you like the build, have at it. But it's a very niche Ice Gauntlet musket mix. Primary damage is on the musket. The Ice Gauntlet is purely for utility and survivability, not really for damage at all. But I'm going to go ahead and share the build here real quick. So the whole concept is high haste, high DPS, almost no damage mitigation built into this build. Our damage mitigation is timing rolls, Ice Gauntlet utility, and the environment, basically. So we're going to start with wing leather boots. We need that 50% increase haste duration and that 10% base damage. It comes with hardcore parkour, which is what I had on my boots on season 9, so that's absolutely perfect. Since they recently nerfed traps season 9, that we dropped to 22% haste instead of 33, and with season 10 it's now 16. So anywhere we can get haste, we're going for it so that we can get as close to cap as possible. I love hardcore parkour. I think it activates a lot, especially in open world PvP. A lot of things to hurdle and mount over, so it's absolutely a necessity for this build. So it's perfect that it comes on wing leather boots. Then we're going to focus on 4 to 5 piece freedom. It's an absolute must. Since we are insanely squishy, our job is to keep the distance, and if we do get pinned down with a stun, root, or whatever it may be, we need to get out of it ASAP so that we can, again, close or create distance because we are all ranged and we're not looking to take on anyone in melee range. So we're gonna get that 4 piece freedom. I'll just go over the fixed perks that are absolute necessity. You already know this, but shirking energy on the pants, vital synergy on the chest, and a piece with life stealers drought. And as far as the hat goes, I have critical retribution. It's not a must, but I have it with great perk slots, so I might as well take advantage of it. So for freedom, then the next thing we want to focus on is thrust harnessing. As much thrust harnessing as you can possibly get. I like consistent damage that is not conditional, and harnessing works perfectly for that. Then I'm going to focus on getting my crit chance up. So as much keen, I like to go 5 keen as possible, and we're going to also focus on alacrity. So typically, I would say go for alacrity, but I have 2 pieces with prolonged favor, which I would prefer over alacrity, but it's really hard to get the fixed perks with prolonged favor and then the open perk slots that we really need to make this possible. So, but I did get lucky. I have 2 pieces with prolonged favor that allows me to drop to alacrity. I prefer prolonged favor because it also buffs the duration of my other uh, limited duration buffs. So that would be ideal, but you need at least a combination of 4 alacrity and prolonged favor, however that comes out. Whatever pieces you find that works, go for it. But if you can't get any with prolonged favor, just go with 4 pieces of alacrity. Then, as far as weapon perks, we are going to be using Power Shot, Crippling Powder Burn, and Traps, right? So we're going to put Plague Power Shot and Accelerating Traps on your weapon. Weapon's got to have a gem slot. It's got to have at least 1 or 2 attunements. I have where is it? So this was my primary. It's now a PvE weapon. I found that I prefer Plagued Power Shot on my weapon. It used to be traps here. So if you can get traps, Plague Power Shot, a gem, and either 2 attunements or attunement and keen speed, I think that is ideal. I absolutely love keen speed, especially with the haste duration buff. You know, we're going for 6-7 seconds of keen speed, and with the crit chance that we have, we crit almost every other shot, so it's absolutely perfect. The other things that we want, one of is you want that keenly empowered, you want keenly jagged, and you want keenly fortified. So every time we do crit, we get a nice little buff. Um, so you want that. Jewelry wise, refreshment, 100% necessity. Healing heart, I think, is very strong, especially when it's 9% of your health for every second for 3 seconds. That's really strong. Nimble, you can do away with nimble. I just happen to have it. I like it, so I'm going to keep it on there for now. Thrust damage for sure. And then, if you want a fourth, I'm sorry, not a fourth, but if you want another perk slot, enchanted skills, not bad, 2.5% increased base damage. There are other good perks, but thrust damage is definitely one that you'd want. And then we're going to move on to the necklace. So, Shuriken Cleanse, Stamina Recovery, Fortified Recovery. I'm I like Stam Recovery and Shuriken Cleanse. Amulet's kind of difficult. It really depends on what you get, but I don't really have 100% like you must have on the amulet perks. But what I do have, I do like. You're gonna want a ice gauntlet that has one skill slot because healing tomb is extremely important to have on the weapon, not the armor, because you want that extra healing. I don't like deep freeze. It's way too. Where's my deep freeze? It's way too situational, and you're just not going to have that chilled with the skills that we're running on your enemy all the time. So I prefer, if I was going to go with an artifact and we going healing tomb, I prefer this gauntlet right here, Otzi or Ot. I don't even know how to say it, but I prefer this. The reason I also prefer this over deep freeze is there's no skill slot for deep freeze. That is a huge nerf, and the gem slot means nothing to me. Ice Gauntlet is purely for utility on this build, so Odits, whatever, having a skill slot, and then it does buff your healing tomb a little bit. It's not huge, but what you do want to get used to when you're using healing tomb is breaking out of it using a light attack instead of a roll. You definitely want to do Entomb's Break, especially when melee players are on you. It's going to stagger them and push them back a little bit. And with this artifact, you actually get to buff that by slowing them. The damage over time it applies is, it's marginal because your weapon damage is going to be so low anyway on the Ice Gauntlet. Even though it's 20%, it's really not much. Um, and then on top of that, I like to use the Stone Form. It's fantastic, especially when getting away from a group of people. They stun you, you roll out, you pop it. That healing heart's going to start healing you nicely. You're going to have haste on, and you're just going to get away from everyone. The skills. Here we go. Just show you my skill tree here real quick. Ice Gauntlet. All right, so Unending Thaw. So you're going to want Unending Thaw on your armor piece, mainly because when they exit Ice Storm, they're going to have the chill effect on them for 2 more seconds, which is important because you're going to, when you have them in there, when you have them in Ice Storm, you're going to wind up a heavy attack and try to land that root that you get from anyone who's in a chilled state or whatever it's called. So you want to have that. You're going to want Ice Shower. This is huge. You get a haste when you go through it, and this is like your oh shit getaway. All right, so if there's a bunch of people on you and you entomb and then you hit your light attack and you push them off, you immediately cast Ice Shower. You run through it, and they most of the time, since they're so close, they end up getting caught up in it, and you're hasted on top of that. You can switch back to your musket, drop a trap, and continue to build that distance. So it's super important. Not too worried about the Ice Gauntlet passives because they're all pretty trash. And back to my musket, just take a look. It's pretty standard, nothing too special here. All right, so I hope that helped you, bud. And if you have any questions, hit me up in game.